Hello from Plughead Studios in Largo, Florida. I'm Scott,
I'm Abram.
and we are here with episode 558 of F5 Live, Refreshing Technology for Sunday, April 19th, 2020. This show is a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. This week, Big Tech wants to know who you see. Libra is trying to stay alive, and Bad Robot is coming back to television. Wherever you are and however you're accessing our show, whether it be on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Snapchat, our live stream platforms, livestream.com, Mixer, Twitch, Periscope, YouTube, or Facebook, on a podcatcher like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, or a myriad of other options, on the radio, or our website, plughitslive.com. Thank you for making us a part of your day. There are three ways that you can do that. The first is normally on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, but today is obviously a different thing. You can always go to f5live.tv/join us. There you can chat with us in the studio and give us your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. This show, while it's happening at 1:30 in the afternoon, will be replayed at 9 o'clock tonight, so you can chat with us anyway. You can also, if you're in the New York area or want to join them on the website, you can listen on 88.1 WMLD radio or at 10 a.m. Eastern on Tuesdays. Or, of course, you can always go to plughitslive.com/subscribe and see all of our shows and all the different ways that you can subscribe, listen, and watch. Abram, how are you doing? Obviously, we're doing the show at a totally different time than normal.
So, my apologies to everybody, including the audience. Although you get much better lighting of me, so that's a plus, right? Um, like everybody, like a lot of people, I've been affected in my own way by COVID-19. I'm okay, but my wife was recently exposed to it. As far as she hasn't gotten any symptoms yet, but she is self-isolating right now in our house. So I'm 100% taking care of the kids while also doing my job and doing the show. So Scott was nice enough we'll try to squeeze this in during the baby's nap. If you hear an infant screaming on the background, my apologies in advance. It's just my daughter trying to voice her opinion on the show, but hopefully she stays asleep while we're doing this.
Well, you know
Um,
what? You know what?
so
Jimmy Fallon has his daughters holding up props during the Tonight Show, so you know it's a weird
yeah, I
time, and
mean,
everybody's doing what they need to do. So we're
yeah, I
fine.
mean, my son is 8 and he's okay. He's just gonna like he just sits there playing Minecraft all day, which is unfortunate, but it makes it easy for me to do this. But my daughter's 14 months,
Right.
so I can't quite yet deploy her to hold up props. Maybe another 6 months or so. I did just give her first tablet this week. Uh, because I took an old tablet that we had lying around and I installed some toddler apps on it for her. So I'm poisoning her with screen time at a very early age, which I did to my son too. So there are a couple of Android apps that I used when my son was that age that are really good for really young kids. She's still learning how to use them though, where it's just like a list of letters A through Z or whatever, and you tap it and it says, "Hey, astronaut," and it like plays a sound or whatever. So,
Okay.
um, she's fascinated by my son's tablet and any electronics that we're using. So I gave her one. She's not quite as interested in it as and not quite as interested in it as I would have liked her to be. But every time she picks it up, she ends up like, this is the problem with trying to set up an Android tablet for a kid. Like every time she picks it up, it's like, oh yeah, wait a sec, why are you trying to set up Google Now? Or you know, why are you trying? Why do I see Bixby or something? So
you're,
anyway,
you're joining a Google Duo chat. What?
yeah, right. I mean, I hid all the apps. I hid all the apps from her except for the toddler ones, but somehow you can just tap around too easily.
Well, obviously, if things get weird and you need to to deal with the little one, it is not a problem. We will figure something out. But un- unlike usual, let's get right down to it
Yeah.
so that we can reduce
Right.
your time away.
All right.
This week's Nifty Gifties and F5 Live is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for that new tablet so you can give the old one to to your toddler, you're looking for a new laptop, or accessories, a mouse, VR and AR headsets, or a whole lot more, you can find them at the Microsoft Store. And right now, you can save $200 on a Surface Pro 7. You can also learn more about the addition to the Microsoft Teams family for families and small groups, and check out all the deals on the Xbox. And remember, if you're an active student or military, you get a discount on almost everything at the Microsoft Store. And to find out about all of that, you can go to f5live.tv/Microsoft. So obviously, we have generally tried to keep our topics away from the one that is affecting most people right now, simply as a change. But there is one topic in the world that is likely in one way or another to affect everybody, and that is the topic of contact tracing apps. If you're not sure what that is, the idea is that your phone, on an opt-in program, your phone becomes a mobile Bluetooth beacon, and when it encounters other Bluetooth beacons, it reports that, essentially. And then that information gets paired with who has been exposed, who has been confirmed, and allows you and others to determine whether or not you have had direct or indirect exposure to somebody with COVID-19. From a theoretical standpoint, the concept is pretty sound. Bluetooth beacons have been around for a number of years. For a couple of CESs, we carried one in our pocket because Android had the Bluetooth nearby feature, which allowed us to, everybody we encountered with an Android phone that had Bluetooth turned on got our CES coverage as a push notification. So Bluetooth beacons have been around for a while, but this is kind of a new take on them. Normally it's a fixed thing that is a beacon, and other things interact with it. In this case, it's two phones acting as both the beacon and the receiver. There are a couple of issues with it from a technological standpoint. The fact that I can, if I know my beacon ID, I can go grab that dot that I have and reprogram its ID, and then place it somewhere and screw up the statistics, which is obviously unfortunate. But this isn't what Bluetooth beacons were designed for, and so trying to retrofit the technology is going to have its downfalls. And somebody like the guy with the wagon full of Android phones pulling Google Maps to show false traffic, somebody is going to falsify data. It's just the nature of people and technology. But the real problem, of course, is our general distrust of big tech right now, mostly because of Facebook. I have a feeling that people are not going to want to opt into this, both because of the fear of data collection, and this growing movement against the government being involved in this. We've seen protests in Michigan and California and a number of other states. Something tells me people aren't going to opt into this, and both Apple and Google say that if they don't get at least 50% opt-in, it's not going to be valuable. What do you think, Abram?
Boy, I've thought about this quite a bit, because I understand how everybody's feeling in regard to like not trusting big tech or not trusting the government with this data. And I'm particularly concerned about like the false positive, right? Like, you know, how do we know that if like I drive by the house of someone who has COVID-19 that it's not going to flag me, and then I'm going to be forced to quarantine
Mhm.
for no reason. On the other
Hopefully,
hand,
in
what I was reading,
fairness, hopefully they will take uh, acceleration and things like that into account because they're going to do a GPS ping on the Bluetooth connection.
yeah, I
So
mean,
hopefully
I'm
they'll
just
take those things into account. But you're right. That who knows exactly what might or might not cause a false positive, even using the technology correctly.
yeah, I mean, obviously, maybe that's not the best example because driving, they could probably catch you. What if I walk by the house?
Hmm.
They're inside their house. I walk down the street. The germs aren't going to travel through the door of their house, but the Bluetooth signal will, right?
Me and my
So,
me and my apartment and my upstairs
oh yeah,
next door
yeah. What if your
neighbors.
neighbor? Yeah, what
Yeah,
if your neighbors have it? That doesn't mean you have it.
right.
Now, uh,
Because
so I see
I
that
haven't seen any of them in weeks.
right. Yeah, when I used to live, I mean, my right, listen, my house is close enough to my neighbor's house that it probably would ping it, and I never talked to those folks. Um, so yeah, I mean, they could have, they could have it, and it wouldn't matter to, wouldn't,
Right.
I mean, it
Affect
wouldn't
you.
mean anything in terms of me. But the uh, the thing is, though, there's got to be some way of using technology to solve this problem because like we have two different extreme things that could happen, neither of which I think is very good. One is you just open everything up, let everybody go, and a whole lot of people are going to get sick and die.
Hmm.
And by the way, I'm not an economist and I don't play one on TV, but I really don't think that that will be good for the economy either. Because even though people would like you to think that, because everything in the economy depends on consumer confidence. So
Hmm.
if you tell me, good news, movie theaters open, you can go, restaurants are open, you can go. I if I know I'm risking my life by going to the movie theater, I'm not going to go even if the movie theater is open and allowed to
Right.
take me. Like, so
Yeah,
so if you don't create a
I
situation where
can't think
people
of a,
are confident,
I can't think of a business that would be worth the risk for me. Even if they said tomorrow everything's back, go, I'm still staying inside.
right? So they have to convince me that it's safe to go. Like it's not now. Look, there's a lot of fools. So there's some people out there who will go,
Hmm.
and unfortunately, there will be people who have to work for those businesses who are forced to go, and they will be putting their lives on the line to make their living. But I think it's not going to be. There's going to be a lot of people who say I'm staying home because I don't feel confident in my safety
Sure.
going to these places. Like never in my life have I really thought about like, oh, if I go to a restaurant, I could catch something 14 days later,
Hmm.
and die or be very sick. So like, you know, I think people doing the risk calculation are going to say this is too risky, even if governments start to say that's okay, just everybody go. Um, so there's that extreme. The other extreme is we all stay inside for something like 18 to 24 months, which at which point I don't know what will be left of society because banks are not stopping collecting mortgage from people for the
Right.
most part. Uh, food still costs money, so everybody who is out of work is going to end up out in the street, and they will have a hard time social distancing there too. So obviously, the two extremes really don't work. So you
Right.
have to try to find a way, a middle ground, to make it safe as possible for people to go out, go to work, uh, engage in commerce again. And if that means using people's phone for data, invading people's privacy, that might be a trade-off that we really have to make because otherwise, what are you going to do? I mean, maybe what I've read about the contact tracing that they're talking about not is actually too light because what I was seeing is it'll be opt in and it'll be and it'll be anonymous.
Hmm.
So you're trusting everybody to be a good actor, and all you need is a few bad actors to really ruin everything. So I don't see how 50% opt-in helps, and I also don't see how, if it sends me an alert and says, "Oh, hey, you might have been exposed. Quarantine yourself." If I don't quarantine myself, like, they're not going to know. Also, if the whole thing is anonymous and they give me really vague information, it's hard for me to say I'm going to quarantine myself based on that. Like, oh,
Right.
you passed someone who might
Right.
have had it. Who? When? Oh, I don't. How do I even know
They're
that
an
this is
11th.
accurate? So I'm gonna.
They're an 11th level contact from somebody who was confirmed. Okay. Yeah, right.
Right.
What does that
So
mean to
it's
me? Because chances are we're all 11th level contacts
right.
from
Right.
somebody who's been
Well,
confirmed.
I'm going to tell you right here in New York, I am a, 1 second level contact of
Right.
people, and frankly that my wife is exposed. I was probably exposed a little bit too. So, you know, we know a lot of people who have I know a lot of
Yeah.
people who have it. Maybe
Yeah.
folks listening in other parts of the country that haven't had as big of an outbreak yet uh, uh, don't know a lot of people. I know a ton, and I think eventually everybody's going to know a ton.
Yeah.
So, there has to be a more precise way to do it. The phone seems like kind of. I mean, if that's the best that we can do, then let's do that. But let's do that, and let's be unfortunately not opt in about it, because you can't, like, this is the problem. If you're carrying germs around, your germs don't stay in your body. So if
Right.
you are saying, "Oh, I have the right to do what I want. I want my privacy. I don't want to, I want to go out. I want to do what I want." That would be great if it was all just in you. But when you go out, you're spreading germs. The germs aren't respecting the privacy of other
Right.
people,
Right.
right? Uh, I mean, I think that we got to do whatever is possible to do contact tracing. I don't know if this is good enough yet. We should see whatever it is that South Korea is doing and do that. South Korea has managed
Yeah.
has got their first infection I think the same time as the U.S. They've had something like less than 200 deaths. They have stores open and people able to go out because they're doing aggressive testing and aggressive contact tracing.
And
Like, if
because
that's
they learned a lot of lessons from MERS a couple of years ago, and they are reapplying, which was another respiratory thing, and they're reapplying what
right,
they learned last time now. Why aren't we all applying what they learned? Isn't the idea of the medical community that it's cumulative knowledge?
right. Well, part of the issue is, not to get too much on my virtual soapbox here, but part of the issue is that you have to actually be willing to do the hard things
Hmm.
and listen to the scientists when they tell you to do the hard things.
True.
I think that the populace in Korea is more willing to do is more has been more the populace and the leadership there have been more willing to do the hard things
Yeah.
that potentially do violate someone's privacy. Whereas here we're a very individualistic society, and we're like, no, I don't want my privacy violated. I don't want. And a lot of people say, I don't want people telling me to stay home. Great, but the end result is that everybody is suffering.
Hmm.
So people here have to be willing to make a sacrifice. And
Make
frankly,
a
I think the sacrifices
make a real
that they
sacrifice
made in
for a
Korea are
short
worth it.
time. Yeah, make a real sacrifice for a short time instead of a little sacrifice for a very extended period.
Right. I mean, better
Yeah.
to do what better to do what's necessary to get it under control so we can go back to normal.
Hmm.
And Korea has gone back to quite a bit of
Yeah.
normalcy because they're doing this aggressive testing and contact tracing.
Yep.
So, so I don't know if phones are the answer, but I think we got to do something.
Agreed. And it'll be interesting to see uh, what the end result of this is. Whether the opt in will work, or if we see some sort of an update, push it into the core of iOS and or Android, or how exactly how it happens. Maybe an app update to Google and Apple Maps or something. Who knows? What the end result is, but like you said, a small sacrifice now versus or a big sacrifice now for a short period so that we can get life back to normal seems like a pretty reasonable place to be. This week's Pilch Point with Avram Pilch is proudly powered by PureVPN. While you're using the internet, one we're talking about giving up a little bit of privacy, but it doesn't have to be everywhere. You can maintain your privacy when you're browsing the web, using other features on the internet. Keep your distance from Google and Facebook and even your ISP by using a service like PureVPN. And they've got deals going right now where you can get, if you sign up for a couple of years, you can get a really huge discount. And one of the best parts is that you get a 31 day money back guarantee. So if it turns out you don't like it, it's not for you, you can still get your money back. And to find out what deals are running, you can go to pilchpoint.live/purevpn. All right, Avram, we've got a follow up to something you talked about conceptually a couple of weeks ago, right?
Yes. So I want to talk to everybody about some ways that you can still have a webcam. Well, I'm going to talk to you about the best way, the coolest, well, maybe not the best, the coolest way to replace a webcam in your system. Now, first of all, some context. Uh, Webcams right now are like the hand sanitizer of the tech world. They are very hard to come by. If you try going out and going to Amazon or Newegg, a lot of them. Most of them are sold out. Some are jacked up in price. A $50 webcam is selling for $220. We talked to Logitech, the leader in webcams, and they said, maybe 4 to 6 weeks, you'll start to see more supply. Meanwhile, what do you do if you don't have a webcam and you need one? Well, one solution that I love and have an article about on tomshardware.com that you guys should check out is to use your Raspberry Pi with a Raspberry Pi camera module. Now, let's say you don't have a Raspberry Pi or Raspberry Pi camera module. That's okay. Those are not in such short supply, especially the camera modules, which go from anywhere from like $10 to $30. Uh, and you can make it into a PC webcam. That is, you don't need to use it on the Raspberry Pi, although you could. You could be here like I am on my Windows PC, and you could use it as a webcam. So I'm gonna explain to you sort of how it works. So um, depending on which Raspberry Pi you have, um, here's a zero W. Um, you can do it a couple of different ways. So here's a camera module. You can see that the camera module does not look like a regular webcam. So they're not selling out anywhere because people are not confusing them for webcams. It cannot hook directly into your PC. They hook into this special camera serial port on your Raspberry Pi. So here it is on here it is on the zero W, and at the risk of making it fall, I'm showing the camera for those who are watching. What it basically looks like on a Raspberry Pi 3. So what what you do is you and you got to read the article for all the details. But what you can do is you can connect the camera module. You install a piece of software called MJPEG Streamer. It allows you to turn your Raspberry Pi into basically an IP camera, like a security camera almost. And then you install a piece of software on your Windows PC that makes your Windows PC think that that IP camera is a physical webcam, and that piece of software is called IP camera adapter, and it's free. All the pieces of software I'm talking about here are free. The only thing you need to buy if you don't have is a Raspberry Pi and a camera module, uh, and obviously you need a micro SD card in your Raspberry Pi, but that kind of almost goes without saying. So depending on the quality of the connection between your PC and your Raspberry Pi, that will determine how good the quality, how jerky or unjerky the stream is. So I'm going to show you. This is going over Wi-Fi from my Raspberry Pi 3 to my PC, so it's not perfect. The best the best way is if you have a zero here, you can actually connect zeros, and zero W's have a special feature where they can connect directly to your USB port. And so it's going directly into the USB on your laptop rather than going over your Wi-Fi network uh, necessarily, or that will definitely be better. So I'm just going to quick show you what it looks like. Now I'm warning you that this camera is the $10 camera, not the $20 camera, so it's not.
Oh. Uh-oh. So we do seem to have lost Avram's audio. Um, but for those of you who are watching live, you can see what the video looks like, and hopefully we can re-overlay audio in a minute. No. Uh, technical marvels, eh? Hopefully he will be back in just a second.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Excellent. Okay.
Yes. So, pro tip, if you're using the software that we're using for this, don't switch your camera in the middle of your conversation. Um, Although the camera itself, it shouldn't happen because the camera, and it hasn't happened to me on Skype or anything else that I've tried switching back and forth, because the camera itself is not the source of the audio. It's only
Yeah.
the source of the video.
I will.
So
I will let Vimeo know that just happened today.
that so that's that's a little weird. Uh, like I said, if you were one who was watching the video, you noticed that the quality was so. Uh, it really varies based on the quality of the camera that you use, the quality of the connection that you have, and you can mess with it by trying different settings. So I had that going at 30 frames per second, 720p, um, which seems to work reasonably well. But if you try dropping down to like 640 by 480, you might get a smoother connection, or 15 frames per second. All this I talk about in my article, which you can find on tomshardware.com. Um, and that is and oh, and another challenge if you saw me doing it is the angle of it, because
Mm-hmm.
the cameras that I have are these little modules that are just like a little tiny square, and they don't have any mount. So to put it on top of my monitor, I had to use Scotch tape. uh, there are other modules you can get that are a little easier to mount. So that's why my angle, if you're one who were watching it, saw I had to kind of adjust it. I was physically like moving the Scotch tape. Now, that's cool. I'm not to say that it's as good as getting a real webcam. Another possibility that we've also covered on tomshardware.com that I will leave out there is we have an article on how to use your phone or your DSLR camera as a webcam.
Hmm.
Or your tablet. So if you have something with a camera on it, there's a good chance that you can use it as a PC webcam. Uh, the only question is the quality of the connection good enough that you won't experience lag? And that really depends on a lot of factors that you can mess with.
Sure. And to be perfectly honest, the video quality uh, that you showed wasn't bad. I've got physical webcams around here that give an equally
I mean,
okay
this is
picture. It's not a
this is
you know it's not a Logitech C920. You know, but
Yeah,
it's not. It wasn't bad.
this is the crappiest webcam. I should really like say that when I started doing this project, I had the cheapest Raspberry Pi camera around, which is not even the official one. I had like a $10 one that I got on Amazon, and so the sensor in that is not the best. After I finished writing the article, uh, I ordered a whole bunch of other Raspberry Pi cameras that are still coming in because I plan to do during this lockdown period. I plan to do a
Hmm.
bunch of roundups of Raspberry Pi accessories. And so I'm going to do a Raspberry Pi camera roundup where I'm going to test like 7 different
Awesome.
Pi camera modules to figure out which one looks the best. Almost guarantee that the one that I have here might be the worst. Uh, the official, the official Raspberry Pi camera module V2, which is the one from the Raspberry Pi Foundation, officially endorsed, uses a completely different sensor than this
Hmm.
does, than the one that I have does. So presumably it is a lot better. I just have not gotten I have not gotten all the cameras yet for the roundup, so I've not hooked them up, and so I went off of what Scotch taped on my monitor right now. But if you were trying to do this seriously as your webcam and not just to write an article about how to do it, like I did, then I strongly recommend getting at least the official Raspberry Pi V2 camera that's like $25 rather than a $10 knockoff like the one that I used. I've also seen models like one that I'm getting from Arducam is the name of the company that is 4K. However, I cannot
Oh.
possibly imagine trying to stream any 1080p, which the camera module is capable of, is too clunky and slow over these connections. So I can't imagine
Hmm.
anybody actually using the 4K as a webcam. But anyway, to make a long story short, uh, check out check out our article, check out my article and the other article about how to use your phone on tomshardware.com, and all of our Raspberry Pi resources, including this one and how to use your Raspberry Pi to fight COVID-19 and all that stuff, you can find by clicking the Raspberry Pi link in the top nav on tomshardware.com.
Well, Abram, I'm not gonna lie. I'm personally interested in reading the one on using a DSLR or something like that. I cannot wait to see that article as soon as we're done, because I have some ideas on how to use that, not quite for the same purpose. So
Yep.
when when I have to do segments from the studio trying to get our expensive cameras in here to fire up as webcams is complicated at best.
Yeah.
So maybe this will be better. So I'm looking forward to reading this, and I imagine everybody else is too. And as always, I look forward to what we talk about next. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live is proudly powered by Razer. All the accessories you need to up your game on both PC and console are available from Razer, whether you're looking for a new keyboard and mouse like the ones we use here in the studio, you're looking for a controller for your PC or your Xbox, or you're looking for a whole laptop. Razer is officially the top choice in the Tom's Guide PC Tech Support Showdown this year, announced this week. A Razer laptop is a great choice. And you can find all of the accessories that are available and all the systems by going to f5live.tv/Razer. I saw that about an hour and a half ago. I thought it
Actually,
was
it's Laptop Mag, but
Laptop Mag.
close enough.
Yeah. In my head, it's hard to keep them.
Yeah.
You were both for so long. It's so hard to
Yes.
remember where
Yes.
things
But
fall.
I worked. Yeah. I for those not who don't know, I used to work for Laptop Mag and for Tom's Guide. Now I work for Tom's Hardware. The difference is, Tom's Hardware we're hardcore. we're the new egg to their Best Buy. Uh,
Huh,
is the best way to describe it. But our good friend Sheree
makes
runs
sense.
Laptop Mag, and every year they do their tech support showdown, and Razer had the best support this year.
That's really exciting, especially for essentially a newcomer in the grand scheme of things, versus
Yeah,
the Apples and HPs uh, of the list. Razer is a relative newcomer, so
yeah.
for them to take number one's pretty exciting. But back on a more Tom's Hardware side of things, um, for a long time, the badge of honor in a gaming PC was can it run Crisis? Crisis was, um, depending on who you ask, it was either a beautiful or a poorly optimized game, and either way, um, being able to when it came out in 2007, the number of computers that could run it at all was slim, and the number that could run it well was even smaller. And for a number of years, the question from any PC gamer was, "Can your rig run Crisis? And if so, how?" Um, and today it has become more of a meme than anything. The joke "Can it run Crisis?" Is in the same category as making the MacBook Pro Touch Bar run Doom within a week of the computer coming out. It's just one of those jokes that persists. But uh, Crytek announced this week that a Crisis Remastered is coming this summer, uh, and maybe it's coming to punish our computers again. There's no telling. They did say that they are adding, that they're modernizing it, and considering in 2007 it was almost a time traveler from the future, certainly showing us what the future of PC hardware was going to need to be. Um, it's possible that the PC version, the game will also be available on the Xbox One, the PlayStation 4, and believe it or not, the Nintendo Switch. Um, but it's possible and likely that Crisis Remastered will be here to once again show us the future and punish our computers. What do you think, Abram? Uh oh, I don't hear you. Nope. Apparently we're here again. This could be a fun edit for those of you who are watching live. The editing process for this episode is going to be interesting. There you, I see you,
Uh,
and I hear you.
do you hear me?
Okay,
It's something with our Vimeo today because I didn't touch anything.
I don't know, but your video quality has been incredible the entire time. So
Yeah, too
anyway,
much.
so what do you think?
I think though that, I mean, if you're just showing the remastered Crisis and it's playing on consoles, it certainly doesn't give you a view as to why you should use a PC instead of consoles. Uh, but you know what does? Minecraft RTX.
Right.
Minecraft RTX came into beta this week. I just have to mention that, and that you cannot get on any of the current gen consoles. Perhaps on the next gen consoles you will be able to, because we hear that they will support ray tracing. But right now, if you want Minecraft with ray tracing, which makes everything look more realistic, yes, a more realistic Minecraft, believe it or not, you will need a PC, um, and you will need at least an NVIDIA RTX 2060 card. We actually have an article about what you need to play Minecraft RTX
Nice.
on tomshardware.com. But uh, so I don't think that Crisis was a snapshot in time of like this was the like performance pushing game of
Mm-hmm.
its time. Now the question is, what are today's games that are really pushing the envelope?
Yeah.
And you know, Obviously, anything that involves ray tracing is, if you want to play it with ray tracing,
Definitely is a
something
line in
like
the sand
Control.
type product.
Yeah,
Because that
something
was what a
like
Crisis was, right?
Control,
Right?
or
Crisis
yeah,
was a line in the sand type product. It was designed to only run on hardware above a certain point, and there was no way around it. And yeah, there's anything with that's designed for ray tracing is going to be that same kind of line in the sand type product.
now I think a lot of publishers, they want to be compatible with more computers because it's a bigger
Mm-hmm.
audience for them.
Right.
So I don't think we see a lot of games that just won't run on anything but the top end.
Yeah.
You see games that won't give you all the special effects. We see games that won't run in 4K or 2K. Uh, that we see. But if you just want to play and you don't care as much about the quality, the frame rate, the the image quality, that kind of stuff, if you're willing to accept modest performance, you can. Most games are playable
Mm-hmm.
uh, on even a low end graphics card. The question, because publishers just don't want to limit their potential audience.
Yeah. That that exclusivity concept of Crisis, and probably the reason why it's the one even 13 years later that we're still talking about as being that exclusive game, is kind of because it might be, give or take, the only of its type, right? Where the publisher went, we are going 100% exclusive on this and we don't care. You don't see that very often. Normally you see, highly scalable games that can back themselves down to a certain point, like you said, to run on, you know, fairly pedestrian hardware, but as the hardware increases, so does the game. The the things that it's capable of doing, and the beauty of the game, right? The art side of the game changes significantly as the hardware does, but we don't often see that it won't run type game. It'll be interesting to see if they do that here. I have a feeling that this is going to be a more traditional remaster, and it's not going to be the boundary pusher that the original was. Um, partially
How
be
could it be? I mean,
right, and how could you, even if you wanted that to be the goal, how do you recapture that weirdness, that time when kind of all of the computer hardware was changing. We were seeing the end of the Pentium as the top of the processor family. As we started to see the Core series take over as Intel's top. We saw that's about the time that ATI became AMD, and video card concepts were changing. It was a weird time
yeah,
in general.
it's not going to happen. Like, I don't see it happening ever again because it's just too expensive for companies to come out with games to make them so exclusive.
Uh-huh.
This is why you see so few titles, so few good titles for VR, because the barrier
Mm-hmm.
to entry has been fairly high to for VR.
True.
So it's getting harder and harder to find a game that will only run on the top hardware. When we do
Mm-hmm.
tests, we find really demanding stuff like Metro Exodus, and we run it. But if we wanted to turn it down, we could play it on very low end stuff.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we have a guy who writes for us occasionally who's a YouTuber named Low Spec Alex, the Low Spec
Uh-huh.
Gamer, and his whole raison d'etre on his YouTube channel, which I highly recommend, is, and he does some of these stories for us as articles. He will figure out a way to run a game below the minimum recommendation. He will figure out a way to run a game that demands discrete graphics on integrated graphics. He will find the secret configuration file that the company doesn't want you to know about, and he will find a way to lower
Yeah.
the special effects even more so that you could get like 30 FPS on your integrated graphics. So um, so anyway, yeah, it's games are very scalable now for a good
Yeah.
reason. It just doesn't make business sense not to.
And with that, it's possible that using that scaling, that the game that plays on the Nintendo Switch, the 360, what? Not the 360. The original came out on the 360. The Xbox One, the PS4 might be a different game than even the the minimum settings or the standard settings on the PC. And it's possible that in the scaling you may be able to get it up to you know that that mythical crisis crushing level, but that it won't have the exclusivity of the original release of this thing in 2007. When the only settings were crushing, and it only went up from there. So we may still see a crisis crush level of settings, but yeah, I'm totally with you. I think you'll be able to play it. I mean, the original game's from 2007, so even with updated graphics and things, you know hardware from 2017, a full decade newer should be probably fine to play the thing. But it'll be interesting to see if they do offer that mythical crisis crush setting level up at the top. We don't have long to wait. They definitely intend for the game to come out this summer, which makes sense because the first two titles in the Crisis series took place in the distant, far off year of 2020. This week's news from the tubes and F5 Live is proudly powered by Riff Tracks. Make fun of movies or let these guys do it for you. Mike Nelson, Bill Corbett, and Kevin Murphy, the original stars of Mystery Science Theater 3000, are back and doing what they do best, creating commentaries for Hollywood blockbusters and B-movie oddities. Unfortunately, the internet's not working right now, so I don't have a great example of a B-movie oddity for you. So let's go with Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny, because it's my favorite. The way it works is for a couple of dollars, you download the MP3, play it along with your DVD, Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, wherever the movie happens to exist, and laugh. There are also live events. Obviously, we don't know what live events are going to look like this year, but there are two theoretically on the docket. When the live events are done, they are oftentimes made available on the website, including Santa the Ice Cream Bunny. So to find out the full-length features, the live events, and the short films that are available, you can go to f5live.tv/rifftracks with an X. It's good to have a favorite when the internet fails there in the middle of a promo. That one's my favorite because it was filmed right here in the Tampa area. Anyway, so last year Facebook announced an initiative called Libra, which was their kind of homespun cryptocurrency. They put together an association to manage it with 22 members of the executive board from all walks of the technology and the financial space. Ranging everywhere from obviously Facebook to Visa and MasterCard, PayPal. Some pretty big names in the space. The intention was for it to be a single cryptocurrency that worked globally, and its value would be based on the real world, so it would be a stable coin. The value would be based on what is called a basket. If you're not a cryptocurrency person, a basket is essentially a collection of other things that, when put together, create your value. In the case of Libra, the intention was for the basket to include things like the US dollar and the euro, plus publicly traded securities and things like that. The exact makeup of that basket was not exactly built, but the basics of a couple of maybe stocks and or bonds, the US dollar, the euro, maybe the yen, things like that, were the basis for the coin. Libra was met with concern, which I believe to be a pretty big understatement. Um, Most of the governments around the world were concerned that by basing it on a variety of global currencies, that it would take their power away from their central banks to control their country's economy and things like that. And then obviously privacy watchdogs were concerned that with Facebook's more than 2 billion active users, that they would essentially have created a global central bank larger than anything that any other organization could pull off. Uh, Most of the governments have questioned the program, and those questions have led to over a quarter of the original members of the board leaving, including big guys like Visa, MasterCard, and PayPal, have all left the Libra Association's director board, which, of course, leaves Libra having to make decisions. And those decisions were announced this week. Instead of a single Libra coin that will be based on a basket, they intend to release several coins based on individual nation currencies. So you'd have a US Libra coin that would be based on the US dollar. You'd have a Canadian Libra coin that would be based on the Canadian dollar, things like that. Um, Obviously, that makes the program scale far smaller and larger somehow than the original intention. Because obviously, technologically, it means that there has to be, um, a Libra exchange in the middle to go from Canadian Libra to U.S. Libra to Japanese Libra, and then you've also got uh, the smaller scale that in the U.S. you use the U.S. one, which makes the thing very different. But it makes payment processing weird, right? It makes all kinds of things bizarre, but it does mean that they're starting to get some government regulatory approvals, which was the thing that we kind of thought might never happen. So, I don't know. Uh, the original Libra sure seemed like it was a big thing that might do something. I don't know. This chopped up version seems like maybe people aren't going to care. What do you think, Avram?
Yeah, I think people don't care. I think there's no need for this. Nobody asked for it.
Yeah.
Uh, Obviously, Facebook would like to get their hands into your wallet like they've gotten their hands into everything else. So I understand why Facebook wants to do it, but I don't think that they've presented value proposition to any great value proposition to consumers. It seems, I mean, are they trying to compete with PayPal or something, or are they just trying? I mean, because trying to compete with cryptocurrency to create their own currency is not working. So if they're just creating currencies to match other people's currencies, what is the point? Are they just trying to create? Are they just trying to compete with other pay systems that are more popular? I mean, granted, pay systems like instant messengers seem to be like whatever's hip at the moment. Although Facebook's not particularly hip, maybe if they made it WhatsApp currency instead, or Instagram currency, it would be more popular. Uh, but I mean,
Depending on who their target demographic is.
for example, I always thought that PayPal was the way to pay, but then I talk to people at my job, and they're like, PayPal, that's for old people. You got to be using Zelle or something. And like, why? What difference does it make?
Yeah.
Like,
It's
so
built into your checking account, which is kind of nice. But yeah, I understand. I, my mind always
yeah,
goes to PayPal when you
right.
talk about stuff like this. But covering the industry as long as we have, knowing
Yeah,
the PayPal founders kind of helps keep your mind in that space.
or it's like, I've never tried it, but I heard some people use the Cash App. Like, I I have I have no I have no idea why people use different. different apps, but are people really looking for one that not only is a new payment method but is a new currency? I mean, didn't we have enough problems with cryptocurrency? And there was the opportunity for people to make money by mining it.
Mm-hmm.
How are you? Yeah, I don't see what the incentive is for consumers or businesses to be
Mm-hmm.
involved in this.
I mean, the idea of a before cryptocurrency, the idea of a stable coin was, uh, you know, Xbox points, things like that. A very
Huh.
closed loop system, and I don't understand the idea of an open stable coin. The concept has never made sense to me. I have had cryptocurrency experts try to explain it, and the more explanation I get, the further away from believing it makes sense I seem to get. Uh, I I heard, and I don't particularly like the guy, but he knows a lot in the space. I heard Tim Draper speak about it, and I walked away from it feeling less convinced of it when I started. I don't get stable coins except in a closed loop system like Xbox, and even there it doesn't exist anymore because even Microsoft has gone to hard dollars. So I don't know. It seems like, yeah, maybe if you're coming from a basket, right? The concept that the coin isn't, it's stable, but it's not necessarily based on your currency. It's based on the global trust in currency as a whole. Okay, yeah, I can see maybe where there might be some value in there because again, there's room to make some money in it, right? Because it's a tradable asset with variable value. Okay, there might be some interest there, but just a one for one to the U.S. dollar or the Canadian dollar or the Japanese yen or whatever. I don't know. That seems silly. Doesn't seem to make any sense to me. So,
I think I think people should just trade in Abrams. If you if you every year or so this comes up, so I'm just gonna like mention it for the audience that hasn't heard it before. There is a unique group out there called the Grand Duchy of Avram. I have no association with it, but there's some. It's some Australian group. Uh, I think it's technically like a micronation or something like that. Like this guy set up his own little territory in Tasmania and said that he's the Grand Duke of Avram, and he was issuing coins called Avrams out of the Bank of Avram, uh, and uh, and I don't think anybody. I don't think they were ever worth anything except on eBay where they're collector's items.
right.
Uh, so, but my suggestion, I might be a little biased, is that people instead of Libra, instead of Bitcoin, people should be trading in Abrams.
Okay, so about 2 years ago, I was bidding on one.
They're expensive. I didn't know this, but they're very expensive. I looked this up once. I was really tempted because the coins look kind of cool
Yeah, they do.
to me. Anyway,
Yeah, I was bidding on one on eBay uh, during one of our shows when we talked about this a couple of years ago. I went on eBay and I found one, and it was I don't know, it had maybe 6 hours left on the auction. It was going for like $8 or something. I'm like, you know what? For $8, it'll live right here on the wall. Uh, it ended up going over 40, and I wasn't that
oh,
interested.
that would be fairly cheap. I've seen people selling like collections of them for like $1,000
Uh-huh.
or $1,500.
Yeah.
See, that's an appreciating asset.
Indeed, indeed. I spent time researching the value on them. And, at $40, it would have been a good deal, but not for a thing that was going to get attached to the wall as
No.
an ongoing joke for our viewers.
Yes. Yes.
Considering this whole
I honestly
this whole
don't know if they still
backdrop
make them.
didn't run $40.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, it'll be interesting to see where this goes. I don't think it's going to go anywhere of any value. Obviously, Facebook disagrees, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere. This week's DRM not included in F5 Live is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. In addition to your free shipping, you get a whole bunch of other features you may not know about, like Amazon Prime Music, which gives you several million tracks available to listen to for free. You get Amazon Prime Video, where you get TV, movies, documentaries, both licensed and original content available as part of your subscription. You get Twitch Prime, which gives you one free subscription on Twitch every month, which you can use to financially support the content creator of your choice. You can subscribe to Plug Hits Live or anybody else, and help out a content creator, especially in these weird times, right? But you also get free games, which, how can you turn down free games? They change every couple of weeks, and once they're yours, which is my favorite part. And we've made it easy to find these features and a whole lot more on your Prime subscription. And if you're not already a Prime subscriber, we have a 30-day free trial, and all of that is available by going to f5live.tv/prime. So obviously we've been talking about the rise of all of these new streaming services, the kind of the big three, Netflix, Hulu, Prime Video, have a good portion of the market share, but services like Peacock are taking interesting approaches and having a free tier like Hulu used to. But then you've got services like HBO Max, which are taking advantage of the Warner Media library to get started on their journey. But obviously we know that the thing that has made Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon work has been original content. And HBO Max is working on that as well. Last year, Warner Media signed a deal with Bad Robot, which is J.J. Abrams' production company, through 2024 to produce TV, movies, and video games. And the first three projects to come out of that relationship have been announced and are heading to HBO Max. We have a new entry in the DC universe. It'll be DC Justice League Dark, which is kind of the mystical arts aspect of the DC universe. Some occult-based characters, John Constantine, stuff like that. So that'll be coming to HBO Max. There's also a series called Overlook, which is a Stephen King project based on The Shining, which will not be Bad Robot's first Stephen King project, considering they were in charge of Hulu's Castle Rock series. And of course, J.J. Abrams, the reason he's a household name today is because of other projects in that same genre of Stephen King's kind of weird storytelling. You've got Lost, you've got Cloverfield, both very, very much in that same genre. And if it weren't for those two projects, you wouldn't know J.J. Abrams' name today. And then you've got Duster, which appears to be an original story that will be a partnership between Bad Robot and Warner Media itself. So three different projects, all in Bad Robot's wheelhouse, though, I think. And all coming to HBO Max. So, J.J. Abrams brings people to whatever he is working on, whether it be, his work in the Star Trek movies, the Star Wars movies, the Cloverfield universe, Lost. It seems like everywhere he goes, people follow. And so, this might be a good relationship for HBO Max, trying to start up in such a crowded field.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Considering HBO itself already costs quite a bit of money, I don't know why people would want another service, but these certainly sound very appealing.
Yeah, for sure. And they're all obviously Warner properties. DC. Warner's had a long relationship with Stephen King, and then an original story. 1970s American Southwest. What does that mean? Who knows? That's all the
Is someone
detail we
driving
have.
a Plymouth Duster? Is the show someone driving a Plymouth Duster?
Oh my god. If somebody could make that an interesting series, it would be Abrams.
I don't know. Maybe it's like, maybe the person's just driving around from town to town. There's creepy stuff, and they're driving their Plymouth Duster. I don't know. Just, just thinking.
I'm on
What does
board.
the Duster mean? I mean, we've had all kinds of shows that were titled by the car the person was driving. Right? Wasn't there a detective show in the '80s with Stingray or something like
Mm-hmm.
that? You know, you have all kinds of shows about somebody driving a car. Well, here's here's your car. It's a Duster. Now,
And
I'm going to start a competing show called Gremlin.
well, unfortunately, I think you'd have to fight for that name. 'Cause I
Maybe
do believe
Pacer.
I do believe there's a media property, not based on the car, but
Okay.
with that name.
How about how about Pinto?
There you go.
There you go. That'll be my '70s car, '70s consumer car.
And and the name could be equally misleading because could also be a bean.
Yeah, that's right. Well, this duster could be anything, right? It could be like,
Exactly.
dust across the Southwest, somebody carrying a duster, somebody inventing a dustbuster. Who knows? Maybe it's about a cleaning service. Who knows? It's mystery. But I hope it's a duster car. Um, the
A cleaning service.
the
I was not prepared for a 1970s American Southwest cleaning service show.
I mean, who knows what they find? Um, these spooky dust bunnies. Uh, eh, but yeah, I mean, these all sound like cool shows. I'm really curious whether the DC show is going to have any crossover with the CW DC shows, which also have Constantine on them.
Hmm. It will be
I'm gonna
interesting.
guess probably not.
The poorly named Arrowverse um, has been confined to the shows on the CW, but in fairness, the W in CW is Warner Media. So,
To be fair, as a expert on the Arrowverse who has watched pretty much, well, I don't watch it. I've watched almost every episode of every one of the shows. Uh, don't miss them. I never miss them. Uh, Constantine was originally an NBC show, and then they brought the character from NBC over to CW.
mhm.
So they were allowed to do that. And then for those who watched the most recent Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover, which you should, um, they actually had some really great surprises in terms of in terms of having them visit these alternate universes where other DC characters who were never on the CW
Mhm.
appeared, like the original actors.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's possible that they would. It's possible that they would cross over.
Yeah. I, and it is. They're all Warner properties. So it's not unlikely that they would try to keep it all together. The TV and the movie universes are different, but they have mostly kept the TV stuff in the last since Arrow, which is why the
Yeah.
poor name for what they call the universe. The they've kind of kept all the TV stuff in a line, in one big family. So I wouldn't be surprised, that HBO Max is a sister of the CW, so it wouldn't be crazy. So we'll see. I would imagine, knowing J.J. Abrams, my guess is that he will want more creative control than being within an existing box.
Yeah, probably so.
But they did, like you said, they did set up the multiverse in a very wide way with this last special, and maybe this show will take place in one of those alternate realities, so that he has a little more creative control, but could then cross over into the CW's programming, which would be pretty cool.
It'll be a reality with nothing but lens flare.
2.3 for every minute. Anyway. Oh my God, that movie. Anyway, this is literally all the information we have so far. It will be a lot of speculation over the next probably year to year and a half before we see anything out of this. My guess is that all three of these shows will come out on a staggered release schedule. They won't try and push all three of them together. Everything is in a very early production stage, so no telling what our release dates will be, but we do know that HBO Max is supposed to come out next month, but probably not with any of this. So, well, that is our show. Thank you to those of you who joined us live. We always appreciate it. And if you joined us live for the first airing of this, we appreciate you joining us at an unusual time. If you either have joined us at our unusual time or through subscription and would like to join us live in the future, Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern at f5live.tv/join us is where you can find us. You will also be able to find us there tonight, and I will have the chat room open, so if you want to talk, we still can, but we won't be able to respond on the show because it'll be a replay. If you would like to subscribe and to see all of our other content, you can go to plughitslive.com/subscribe or find us on Facebook or YouTube. For those who have been following along with our special events coverage, tomorrow finally puts an end to the CES 2020 live interviews. As of right this second, we have 4 total left, 2 today and 2 tomorrow. And then we get back to unboxings and all the other interesting stuff that we usually do throughout the year. So definitely check that out. And I guess with that, on behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we will see you guys back next time. Ciao.